Welcome back to another dreadful side quest where we dive into some of the world's strangest and/or dark topics. My name is Vlad, and today we're going to be talking about Jack the Ripper. But yeah, this is gonna be a very interesting topic, and my God, I have seen some of the murder photos that this man pulled off. He was just leaving organs everywhere. This guy was the messiest serial killer I've ever heard of. He was like pulling out people's organs like we were at some party and we were low on confetti. It was insane. Yeah, this guy's very brutal with the way he would kill people, and you're about to see for yourself. But without further ado, let's begin the video. Jack the Ripper, a pseudonymous murderer of at least 5 women in or near the Whitechapel district of London's East End between August and November of 1888. The case is one of the most famous unsolved mysteries of English crime. Now, I'm sure you guys have probably heard of Jack the Ripper before. If you haven't heard of Jack the Ripper, you're probably living under a rock, because it is one of the most famous murder cases. Now, my knowledge is very limited. All I really know about it is that it happened in London, and I know the way he would kill his victims in a very brutal manner. But besides that, I have no idea who this man was, or woman. I don't want to get canceled. I said woman. Are you happy? Good, we can move on now. But we're about to learn some stuff together, so I hope it's not too sensitive for you. Some dozen murders between 1888 and 1892 have been suspiciously attributed to Jack the Ripper, but only 5 of those, all committed in 1888, were linked by the police to a single murderer. The so-called canonical 5 victims were Mary Ann Nichols, whose body was found on August 31st, Annie Chapman, found September 8th, Elizabeth Stride, found September 30th, Catherine Eddowes, found September 30th as well, and Mary Jane Kelly, found November 9th. According to the common assumption of the time, all the victims were prostitute, and all but one of them, Kelly, was murdered while soliciting on the street. So yeah, from what I've heard, this man didn't actually have a motive to kill these women, or at least not a known motive. I'm sure he had a motive, whether it was he wanted money from them, he had a bad time under the sheets given that they were all prostitutes, or maybe he was just batshit crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say. In each instance, the victim's throat was cut, and the body was usually mutilated in a manner indicating that the murderer had at least some knowledge of human anatomy. Okay, so basically what I think that's saying is that this guy was probably a doctor. That's really scary to think about. That old Dr. Frank that you go to do your yearly checkups with is actually just going out behind the scenes and just slashing a bunch of women's throats and playing with their intestines. My God, that's gruesome. On one occasion, half a human kidney, which may have been extracted from a murder victim, was mailed to the police. That would be a really disturbing package to get. If somebody was like, mail delivery, they hand me a package and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what this is. Maybe it's that 10-pack of socks I ordered a week ago on Amazon, and I open it. And it's just a human kidney. Hell, I could buy like 1,000,000 packs of socks for the amount I could sell that kidney for. Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad package to get. I don't know, I'm just saying. The authorities also received a series of taunting notes from a person calling himself Jack the Ripper and claiming to be the murderer. Strenuous and sometimes curious efforts were made to identify and trap the killer, all to no avail. A great public uproar over the failure to arrest the murderer was raised against the Home Secretary and the London Police Commissioner, who resigned soon afterward. Oh, that's kind of funny though. That is kind of funny that this police commissioner saw what this man was doing and was just like, nope, I'm out. Y'all can take this one. I'm not dealing with it. This man straight up tapped out. He had enough. The case has retained its hold on the popular imagination, in part because known instances of serial murderers were much rarer at the time than they are today. Jack the Ripper has provided themes of numerous literary and dramatic works. Perhaps the most notable was a horror novel, The Lodger, 1913 by Marie Lowndes, which inspired numerous films, including Alfred Hitchcock's The Lodger, A Story of the London Fog, 1927. The most commonly cited suspects are Montague Druitt, a barrister and teacher with an interest in surgery who was said to be insane and who disappeared after the final murders and was later found dead. Literally none of that adds up. In between the man wanting to be a teacher, also interested in surgery, and was claimed to be insane, working around kids at a school. The 1800s had some real questioning choices for teachers back then. And I'm sitting here thinking the school system these days was bad. They were hiring psychopaths back then. My God, I'm looking at these Jack the Ripper photos, like of the murders. These don't even look like real people. It just looks like a pile of mush on a bed. That's how bad this is. I'm gonna put some of these pictures up on the screen. Viewer discretion is advised. I cannot stress that enough. These are beyond disturbing. So if you're a little bit squeamish and you don't like blood or just people completely crushed into piles of human flesh, I probably would look away from the screen right about now. Here you go. So this picture we're currently looking at is said to be the body of Mary Jane. Hell, if I can tell that's Mary Jane, you can't even tell what her face and her ass is. It's so mutilated, my God. Like, I think that's her head all the way by the bedpost. That would make sense because that's where you put your head. I think I can see an arm kind of resting on top of her stomach there. And her legs, oh, they're pretty much just gone. This lady has no more need to walk ever again. Jesus, this is brutal. Now, I'm not interested in serial killers specifically. I'm more interested in the motive behind them. But I can't even begin to imagine the motive that would drive anybody to do what Jack the Ripper did to poor Mary Jane there. Jesus, this is like bad. I'm just like mesmerized by the photo here. It's like putting me in a trance. I need to look away now. Can't be getting caught in the realm of dead people now, can we? No, the hell we can't. Now, the next suspect we're gonna talk about is Michael Ostrog, a Russian criminal and physician who had been placed in an asylum because of his homicidal tendencies. What is it with people in the 1800s and hiring the worst possible people to be doctors, teachers, dentists, and shit like that? How do you even get past the job interview if you're that insane? If you're that out of touch, I doubt you're gonna go in just acting perfectly normal. There has to be something indicating that you're about to completely murder like 50 people in a row with your dentistry kit. Like the manager of like a dentist office or something is waiting for this guy to come in for an interview. The guy finally comes in, he sits down, and the manager is like, "So, what brings you in? Why do you want to become a dentist?" And then this very visibly mentally unwell guy comes in and sits in the chair across from him. He's doing like a crazy head glitch kind of thing. "I want to keep patients' teeth. I mean, clean their teeth." And then the manager's like, "I like this guy. This is what we need here." What a good guy. All the patients are gonna feel real safe around him. You're hired. I swear, there wasn't like a thought process or anything. And the next suspect was Aaron Ksky, a very sensitive Polish Jew and resident of the Whitechapel who was known to have a great animus towards women. I'ma stop you right there. If this man was so sensitive, how was he going around mutilating women in the manner that Jack the Ripper was said to do? If he was sensitive, he probably couldn't be around that much blood or like organs and stuff like that, I'm assuming. Hell, I can't even do that. Like, it's too much for me sometimes. I watch one of the Saw movies and I have to look away and I go piss myself because I'm so scared. I doubt if he was sensitive like that, he'd be able to go out and commit these very gruesome murders. I'm just imagining him at a murder scene. He has this woman tied up in front of him and he's like, "It's so much harder for me than it is for you. I need you to stay very quiet. Please be quiet." And he's like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I can do it." "Okay, shh, I'm gonna stab you now. I can't look though." "I'm gonna have to look away while I stab you. I don't like blood. I don't like that." He wasn't a murderer if he's sensitive. There's no sensitive serial killers out there. And of course, there were several other notable Londoners of the era, such as a painter, Walter Sicker, and the physician, Sir William Gull. I like how they're just pointing out the suspects, but they're not actually telling me why they're suspects. Again, I think the thought process as to who committed these murders was very thin. I also wanted to say, I like how they depict Jack the Ripper in all of these pictures. If you Google him, it's probably just straight up a man in a black trench coat wearing a top hat. You know, the most British thing ever. Totally not a stereotype there. But I gotta say, some of these pictures of Jack the Ripper, like artistic recreations of Jack the Ripper, they're really like ominous and creepy. This man in his trench coat sending some chills down my damn spine, I'm telling you. He's creepy looking. And then there's all these other news articles about analysts try to put a face on Jack the Ripper because you can totally do that without even having a suspect, a solid suspect in line. And if you're wondering why I'm saying that, it's because Jack the Ripper was never caught. There's suspects, sure, but nobody actually knew what he looked like. There was barely any clues because police productivity at the time was nothing compared to now. So I don't know how y'all expect to be putting a face on Jack the Ripper, but good luck. I actually had a friend once who was really creepily obsessed with Jack the Ripper. No joke, we were in class one time, and I was kind of like peeking over my computer screen because I'm a nosy son of a bitch. And on the screen from the girl in front of me was all of these Jack the Ripper fanfic photos. And I got very concerned. I moved seats about 2 days later. I didn't feel safe. But my favorite theory for Jack the Ripper is probably the doctor theory, that he was a doctor, because some of the incisions that he would make on these victims were the exact way incisions were made on patients going through surgery at the time, which means he had to know how to make these proper incisions perfect in everything, which would make sense that people are saying that he knew a lot about human anatomy, leading to the fact that he might have been a doctor. So I think that's probably the most compelling theory out there. Now, another interesting theory out there that I haven't listed yet is the theory that there was multiple Jack the Rippers, and I also like this one very much, because some of the murders happened at almost the exact same time, still in London, but completely on the opposite sides of London from each other. Now, unless this man or woman could teleport all the way across London in a matter of minutes, I don't see how that's possible. So that would also make sense that there's multiple murderers. And again, just the way he would murder these women is just so brutal. Like, listen to this. Most experts point to deep slash wounds to the throat, followed by extensive abdominal and genital area mutilation. In some cases, he was known to completely dismember bodies entirely. So basically, this guy was just taking a body. He was like, your arms, don't need those anymore. Your legs, sorry, not anymore. This is really gross. And as for his motives, I did say that I was not sure of his motives earlier, but I've stumbled across some potential motives here that I'd like for us to go over, because why not? Let's find out what was going on in this man's silly little brain. Jack the Ripper's crimes exhibit a need for control and dominance over his victims. The meticulous nature of the killings suggests a desire to assert power and instill fear into both the immediate victims and the wider community. Okay, I guess my question was answered. This man was crazy as hell. Or maybe it was this motive. He hated women. That's it. That's literally what it says on here, on this paper. He hated women. Well, it would make sense. I mean, I guess they were only women that he was killing. Maybe he was just sexist. And I mean, I guess he did target prostitutes, which could lead to the fact that he just didn't like the fact that women were selling their bodies for money, because the total logical solution to that is killing them all together. But yeah, being a prostitute's very risky business. You're just straight up getting into some random guy's car and having him take you wherever. I mean, I guess we do have the same thing today. It's called Uber. I don't trust Uber one bit. This one time I got into an Uber and it was really creepy what happened. I thought I was about to get kidnapped or some shit. Because I get into this Uber and the guy driving, he seemed like a really nice Indian man. Until he started offering me candy. I'm not joking, this happened. And he would be talking to me all happy and cheerful and nice, but whenever he would offer me candy, his tone would change and he'd get really dead serious in a really monotone tone of voice, and it was creepy. He was like, oh my god, my grandkids, they just graduated, I'm so proud of them. Then he'd reach into the seat next to him, grab the candy bowl, like turn towards me in the back and be like, you want some candy? Just no expression on his face, just monotone, and it was creepy. He offered me candy 3 different times throughout my 20-minute drive. And in that moment, I was thinking, if I put a piece of that candy in my mouth, I'm gonna be out cold. This man's gonna tie me up, take me to his storage unit. The world will never see me again. So I did the smart thing and I just popped on my headphones and I just started listening to music, hoping that this guy wasn't gonna reach back with like a gun or something. That's not my only sketchy Uber encounter. This has nothing to do with like kidnapping or anything. It just goes to show how irresponsible Uber drivers can be. So another time I got into an Uber and the guy driving, he had an iPad attached to the front of his car right next to the steering wheel. And it was about a half an hour drive to my location. He flipped on his iPad and started watching the football game while driving on the highway. And the whole time I was convinced I was gonna die. I was convinced this guy was gonna look at his football game right when somebody scores and we were gonna slam into the truck next to us. I didn't tip that son of a bitch. Hell no. But I think that's enough about me ranting about Uber. And as I mentioned before, he did leave some signature markings, kind of like a little flag saying, hey, my screwed up self was here. The killer left distinct signature markings, such as the removal of organs or specific mutilations, creating a consistent pattern across the murders. Jack the Ripper displayed knowledge of forensic techniques, avoiding leaving behind substantial evidence, making the investigation challenging for the authorities. What if this guy was like a cop? Because if you're a cop, you probably know how to outrun the cops and outsmart the cops because you know everything that they know. Maybe he was a cop, I don't know. Jack the Ripper's reign of terror in Victorian London stands as one of history's most notorious unsolved mysteries. The enduring legacy of Jack the Ripper is a chilling reminder of the challenges in solving crimes from a bygone era, leaving the perpetrator's identity shrouded in the shadows of time. Now that was pretty much the end of the whole history of Jack the Ripper, but I just found a really crazy thing that happened. So there was this woman basically, and she really hated her husband so much to the point where she went to the police and said that her husband was 100% Jack the Ripper. Now for some reason the cops were like, this lady just told us she knows Jack the Ripper, it's her husband, take him away. There wasn't even a real investigation done. They just were so desperate to catch this guy at the time. They just went into this lady's house, arrested the husband, and I'm pretty sure he spent like 30 years in prison before they determined that it was not him because Jack the Ripper kept killing while he was in prison. And for some reason that took them 30 years to figure out, but I don't know what the law was like back then. I guess the real monster here the whole time was that lady who just ratted out her husband and lied to the police. But that's gonna wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little bit about mutilation, a little bit about why you shouldn't be going around killing people. And if you're out there looking at Jack the Ripper fanfics and stuff like that, stop it. You need help. And while we're at it, never talk to me again, please. I don't feel safe around you if you're doing that shit. But as always, feel free to hit that shit. But as always, feel free to hit that like button, comment, share it with your friends. That is if you have any, and I will see you guys in the next video.